Okay, my friends, I am live, ready to attack a very, very controversial subject. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. I hope all of you are subscribers on my YouTube channel. If you haven't hit the subscribe button and the notification bell yet, please do so because you will be notified of any of my upcoming lives like this one. Otherwise, it's just a crapshoot. You'll get notified if you happen to be on YouTube. But the notification bell and being a subscriber of the channel will definitely get you the notification. So also, quick plug, robertcabral.com, my online training platform, where you will see all of my full-length training videos, member lives, member Q&As, everything. Everything is right there. Let's talk about a really very difficult topic, and that's animal shelters. And it's a topic that has been close to my heart for many, many years. In fact, longer than dog training. I think the issue with animal shelters in this country and the world is sad at best. At the very, very best, it's sad. And what makes it sad is people's lack of compassion for animals, particularly dogs. What's going on in shelters has changed drastically. There are some shelters that are doing really good work, but the overall picture of what's happening, dogs are no longer wanted. They get dumped, whether they're dumped in the shelter or on the street. And in the shelter, they're warehoused until eventually they either get adopted or get killed. I made a post earlier this week about volunteers and how volunteers often get sucked into trying to save the most difficult dogs. And I said these volunteers are very good people, very compassionate people. People I admire for their compassion and their willingness to try to help dogs that others have discarded, have given up on. But what happens, because they are first and foremost dog lovers, they get attached to the dogs, which is good. I get attached to dogs. But what happens is they then often lock into a dog, right? So and it's a normal thing. Like I lock into dogs. I'm one of those people. If I bring a dog in my house, that dog is going to stay, right? I mean, I went and I met Shmuley in Germany as a 7-week-old puppy, and that was it. He was mine. There was nothing was going to change that, right? And I knew I would make it work. I knew that was it, and that nobody's going to talk me out of it. So when you're in a shelter, and I've played in this game for quite some time, you meet a dog. And that dog has a way, because of genetics, right? DNA, we really bond closely with dogs. Dogs bond closely with us. We hear the story of the dog bit a kid in the face and the dog kind of like, we then don't turn off and go, okay, well, we have to kind of put that in a different category. We say, oh God, I wonder what happened. Maybe the kid punched him in the face. Maybe the kid did this. Maybe the kid did, I don't know. But we end up now trying to make excuses because we're locked into that dog. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it will allow us to help a lot of dogs. But there are certain dogs that should not be in society. I'm going to say that early, and I'm going to say it often. There are many dogs that don't belong in society. Now, I'm not saying more dogs belong out of society than in society, but I'm saying there's a lot. Those are dangerous dogs, unstable dogs, dogs that will cause damage to another dog, person, child, whatever. In this country, in the United States, where I am right now, and probably all over the world, there's a hero mentality. And that hero mentality, first of all, causes us to judge others. Like, I'm doing this, why can't more people do that? Well, after all the work I did in shelters, I just thought, I did this work in the shelters because I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed saving dogs. But if you don't want to do it, I don't care, right? I mean, it's not a big deal. People will do what they should do and what they can do, what they're capable of doing. There's certain people who are not capable of going into an animal shelter and working with dogs. They just are too emotional about it. I understand that. I respect that. There is now, and has been for the last, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so, this no-kill ideology, right? And it was coined, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to get sued. I don't want to go through the pain in the neck process. No-kill was originally coined by someone, and then it was extrapolated out. I want to say this as politely as I can. There is a lot of money, not in animal shelters, and certainly not in rescue. Rescue people are trying to do their best as well. But there are a few top animal rights organizations here in the United States. Many of them have initials. Some of them have names. They take in tens of millions of dollars every year. You'll probably get a piece of mail from them, soliciting, showing you a sad dog in, maybe a sanctuary, showing you a sad dog maybe in a shelter, and asking you to donate, 10, 15, 20 bucks or sign up for $10 a month, and they'll send you a jacket and a shirt and a hat. Those organizations take in tens of millions of dollars. The executive of those organizations take in huge salaries. Now, I'm not against huge salaries. If you take in a salary of $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $1 million a year, and you're doing an amazing job, and your company is solvent and it's doing well, great. More power to you. I like making money. I think everybody should be entitled to make money. But when that money is made on the backs of people's $10, $20 a month donations, and they think that entire money, the entire sum of money, $20, whatever, $10, whatever they're giving, is going towards helping a dog in a shelter, then it's a scam. It's a total scam. I'm not going to mention any organization's names. I will not do that because I don't want to get sued, and I want to be able, and I think you can do the homework, right? You can search organizations. Like I said, a lot of them have initials, just letters, and some don't. Some have, other names. But here's the problem, and this is what I really want to focus on today. Shelters are becoming quite dangerous. And this is the crux of today's conversation. This is really where everything hinges on. Recently, a good friend of mine, someone I know, works at an animal shelter. I'm not going to mention where because I'm trying to stay as neutral as possible. She works in an animal shelter, and she was mauled by a dog. Mauled. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of the story behind it because I know her friends, I know her well. There was a dog, and the dog was, I believe it was a Presa Canario. The dog had bitten someone. The dog was in a separate ward, a separate wing of the shelter where they keep dogs that have bitten people. And a rescue organization was fighting to save this dog, knowing full well it had bitten someone. And it had notes on it that it was a dangerous dog. And they pushed and pushed and pushed. And in California, there is a thing called the Hayden Act. And they will allow a dog to exit a shelter. And I've used the Hayden Act in court, and I've rescued dogs that I shouldn't have rescued. I'm going to get into that later. And they were about to pull this dog. And this is where this young lady went to go get the dog in the back. And she's a very skilled handler. It's no one's going to say, oh, this happened because she wasn't a skilled handler. She's a very skilled handler. As I know, a lot of shelter employees are very skilled handlers. There are some that aren't, without a doubt, but there are a lot that are very skilled handlers. I've trained a lot of them, and I've seen them handle dogs better than a lot of professional trainers who can do some really amazing things with dogs who could never handle a dog like that. She went in the back to get the dog, and the dog turned on her and bit her so often and so hard, she said she thought she was going to die. And she was in a room, a section of the shelter, where you couldn't hear her screaming. And she was able to find a brick and beat the dog off of her with a brick. Now, if you have a dog that is so strong and so violent that it needs to be, that it can take that kind of pressure and needs to be beaten off of you with a brick, it's the wrong dog. It's the wrong dog. She called 911. They came in the back and they found her in a pool of her own blood. Barely able, she couldn't stand up on her own. She was she was at the end of her being able to do what they were going to do. Now, they killed that dog, which they should have killed that dog way before it did that. But they didn't. Because certain rescues, certain animal rights people get emotionally dialed into saving the wrong dogs. Now, I'm going to get back to the organizations, the big ones. There's like 4. Through the idea of no kill, they raise, like I said, tens of millions of dollars, telling you, the public, that we can save all the dogs in the shelters. And I came from that. I used to say the same thing 15, 18 years ago. But it's wrong. I'm here to tell you it's wrong, and it's dangerously wrong. There are plenty of dogs that we should be putting down the shelter. Some because they're bad dogs. Some because they were just bred, trained, and raised wrong. Nonetheless, those dogs pose a significant danger to the public, people and dogs. But these big organizations now start funding or donating to municipal shelters. This is not only in private shelters. They want the big cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, all the big shelters. They want them to understand that they can get more donations if they kill less dogs than the year before. So I say to you, last year you killed, I don't know, 5,000 dogs, 3,000, whatever it is, dogs. This year, we can give you the $100,000 grant or donation if you will only kill 100 less dogs than that. And that's where they extrapolate out that we can be no kill in 10 years. We will never be no kill. There will never be a time where large municipal animal shelters do not kill dogs in their care. We have to get rid of that idea. If we truly love dogs and we truly want what's best for dogs, we have to understand that some dogs will die. And in the older days, people were a lot more open about the idea that this is a bad dog and it's not good for society. We must get rid of it. Where now this hero mentality steps in and says, well, what do you mean you can't take the dog? Somebody can take it. And so you see springing up a lot of these sanctuary type places, and they'll take your dog. You just make a donation of $5,000 and we'll take your dog for life. Now, I've had a few dogs, and I know a lot about dogs. And I know the care it takes to take care of a dog. And I can tell you $5,000 over 10 years is about $500 a year. It's about $50 a month, 40 something dollars a month. There's no way you can take care of food, veterinary care, and overall care, right? Just sustaining the dog for $50 a month. Even if you have 1,000 dogs, you have $50,000 a month, right? $50,000 a month. You have to imagine how many people you need to care for those dogs. Salaries, rent, insurance, utilities, food, veterinary care. Right? So when these organizations come in and say, oh, we can do it, you can't do it. And there are so many dogs that rightfully should just be put out of their misery. There are organizations that I've visited that keep dogs in crates it's not far from where I live. And they're a nonprofit. And they take dogs out of the shelter and they keep them in basically a crate, 22 hours a day, and they get a couple walks, maybe a little playing, and then they go back in the crate. So I'm not going to address this. I'll address the spay and neuter thing in a second, but this is not the issue, right? This is not, I want to kind of address fake issues as well in this. When these organizations keep putting these commercials on TV and they keep showing the sad dog in the shelter, and that you're $20 a month or you're $12 a month or you're $40 a month, whatever it is, can save this dog. One, they're telling you a lie in two ways. One, that money's not going to that dog. And two, they're taking most of that money. So when those millions of dollars are coming, and again, I'm not saying anything wrong. Look, I have an Apple phone, I have nice watches, I have a nice computer, I have a lot of nice things. And I support companies. I drive a nice car. I mean, I want big business. I want big companies. And I don't mind, dog food companies are making millions of dollars. If they're providing a service. When it's a lie is when I have a problem with it. And when I tell you that we can make everybody no kill, and I put pressure onto shelters to say, you can't get this $100,000 unless you're killing 100 less dogs. And I understand the theory behind it is shelters should try to kill less dogs. I don't deny that. But those same organizations that will tell the shelter to kill less dogs are also organizations that don't support the proper use of tools and training. Those big organizations, none of them will support the use of a prong collar or an e-collar or corrections in the shelter. So now you're telling shelters to train these dogs and house these dogs and care for these dogs until they get adopted. But you're not giving shelter workers the ability to do what they need to do with those dogs. And shelters should all, I said this for years, every shelter should have a veterinarian on staff and a dog trainer on staff. Not a behaviorist, a veterinary behaviorist. No, a dog trainer who understands shelter dogs, who's worked with shelter dogs, whether or not he has a couple of initials behind his name or not, I don't care. I want to know his experience and I want to know his ability. That would save a lot of dogs because that person could then evaluate the dogs, work with them for a little bit and say, this dog, through training, is not showing the ability to move beyond where he is. Fear or aggression, whatever those, fear or dominance in his aggression, or completely being a neurotic and shut down. When you have that, then you have a better likelihood of saving the right dogs. When I adopt out a dog and that dog has dog aggression issues, several things happen. First of all, I endanger other dogs in public, and other people have dogs in public. So if that person is walking that dog and my neighbor is walking their sweet dog and they come upon each other, that other dog's going to get bit. And then when my neighbor tries to break up the fight, he's going to get bit. So we need to understand the overall danger that we're putting on society. Now, can many people handle most of the dogs in the shelters? I think so. I think a lot of the dogs in the shelters are turnkey here, ready to go. You know what? Some idiot had them who couldn't keep him because he moved or some stupid idea. And he's a nice dog. Take him. He's fine. Now, the dogs that require some work are also not dogs that should be killed. If I can get these dogs to understand through training and adopt it to the right person, that these dogs just need a little bit of structure, they need a couple corrections, they need some guidance, they need this, they need that, fine. But when you have dogs that they say, this has to be the only dog in the household, this dog can't be around other dogs, this dog should go to the ranch in Wyoming where it can just run free and not worry about things, you know, where it's not going to be around people or dogs. Those ranches don't exist. You know where those ranches exist? In the scams online. When they tell you for so many $1,000s, they will take that dog, care for that dog for life. It's a lie. There was a person in Los Angeles years ago, and I know who the person is, I'm not going to say anything else about him, that would say to people, oh, you know what, your dog's aggressive. You know, I will train and rehome the dog, but you have to sign off on the dog that, you know, because for the benefit of the dog, you can't know where the dog went or whatever. And the guy was taking just these thousands of dollars, kept the dog for, you know, a few days, and then took it to the shelter and killed it, or took it to the vet and killed it. So he's taking people's money. At least he's not adopting the dog out, but he's lying to the people. And I've told people, not many, there's very few dogs that I've advocated for euthanasia for, because I will run the gamut. Unlike other trainers who don't have the technical ability to deal with aggressive dogs, I can start with treats and toys and reinforcement, all that, and I can go to the next level, the next level, the next level, until I see that there is no level that this dog that can help this dog, or the level that can help this dog cannot be met by the average dog owner. And then I can say this dog is a really good candidate for euthanasia. And that's it. But remember, in the meantime, we are killing really good dogs. I talked about this in my video, the 80-20 rule. Right? If I have a dog that takes 20% of my effort, it frees up 80% for other dogs. But if I take a dog that takes 100% of my effort to manage, to train, to work with and everything, I can't help another dog. And inevitably, that dog will bite somebody or another dog, and I'm going to have a problem. And then I'm going to have to put the dog down anyway. And while I'm working with that one dog, 4 other dogs will die. And nothing upsets me more than really nice dogs being killed in shelters. Dogs that haven't bitten anyone, dogs that have not bitten other dogs. That's the problem. And there are some really great trainers out there. You guys know who you are. I'm going to get to questions in just a few seconds. You know who you are. You take dogs from the shelters. You work with these dogs, and then you adopt them out. You're doing God's work. You really are. But there's not enough of you, right? And you don't want to burden yourself with a dog that takes so much effort that it takes all your energy away from other dogs. and your life. When you have a dog that you know is dog aggressive, when you're out walking that dog, you are really, on guard, on your tippy toes. You're not relaxing on the walk. You're walking, you're looking around corners. Did somebody's little chihuahua run out of the house on accident when they left the door open? Did somebody drop their leash on their dog, or somebody walking their dog, their friendly dog is going to come upon your dog that doesn't know any better? I mean, granted, off-leash dogs should not run up to dogs on leash. Granted, I am a big proponent of that. I hate it when they do it to my dogs. And I say something. But it does not mean that that dog should be mauled or killed for that mistake or that infraction. It just means the owner was careless, and the owner should be reprimanded to be more careful next time. But that dog, because it just ran up to another dog in a friendly manner and the other dog's not friendly, and that dog mauls or kills it, that is not right. And that is the main position I want to make in this live, is that my goal is to try to save more dogs and to do what's best for more dogs. I can't save all the dogs in the world, and I can't do what's best for all the dogs in the world. Some dogs, sadly, will need to die to make room for good dogs. And when people say, oh, we need to spay and neuter our dogs, we're punishing dogs. We're taking away their reproductive rights and drives because of irresponsible people. Right? It's like, you should spay and neuter your teenager so they don't have more pregnancies. So, yeah, spay and neuter is a good idea to limit accidental pregnancies, but I've never had an accidental pregnancy, and I've had intact dogs. I know a lot of people who have intact dogs who have never had an accidental pregnancy, ever. In fact, many of the people I know who have intact dogs won't even let their dog mate with a female unless they are getting money for it and they've seen the papers and they know where the puppies are going. Both sides, male and female. So spaying and neutering is a solution because we're allowing really irresponsible people to have dogs. It's like saying we should defang our dogs, right? We should grind their teeth down so that when they get in a fight, they don't do any damage. That would save a lot of dogs. If while they're spaying and neutering the dog, they took the fangs out of the dog's mouth, the canines, and they ground down all their teeth, well, they would do a lot less damage in fights. And that would really, really help to prevent injuries in fights. But you're again catering to the lowest common denominator. You're taking the rights away from people who may never want to breed a dog. I've never bred Goofy. We tried twice, it didn't take, but Goofy was never bred. 14 plus years. I never accidentally got near another dog. So that's a big problem, right? And when you say we should stop breeding, we should not allow people to have intact dogs or breeders until the shelters are empty. Well, it's like saying you're not allowed to buy a new car until we get rid of all the used cars. You're taking rights away from people who are paying their taxes, who are justified in their positions to want to buy a dog because that's what they want, and to have a dog that's intact, right? Because other people are irresponsible. No one is saying if you dump a dog in a shelter, you're never allowed to have another dog. If you dump in a dog in a shelter, you're going to be, you're going to have a fine attached to your wages for, so many thousands of dollars to cover the expenses. Nobody's saying that. What everybody's doing is they're catering to the people who are doing the right thing, punishing people who are doing the right thing, and helping people who are doing the wrong thing, letting people doing the wrong thing get away with it. When you want to make everyone adopt a shelter dog. Make everyone spay and neuter their dog. Because there are so many dogs in shelters, you're not helping the dogs in the shelters or the people who are dumping dogs in shelters. You're punishing the people who don't put the dogs in shelters. Real simple. Rescue organizations should set up an organization that works with the cities or municipalities and go through Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and all these different places and find people who are backyard breeding dogs, selling them for $200-300 on the street corners or off Craigslist. And they don't have a license to do it, and they should be fined. Heavily fined, by the way. Shut down and heavily fined. But that's not happening. When somebody dumps a dog in a shelter, I understand this, right? The shelter has to be nice to them so that they won't just abandon the dog in the street. So here's the ironic thing. We have to be nice to someone who's doing the wrong thing by giving up on their dog to reward them for not doing a greater wrong thing, right? Or a more wrong thing. So we don't want somebody to drop their dog on the side of the freeway, which people do. We want them to drop the dog at the shelter. But it's so casual and so easy. The other day, the West LA shelter had a 14-year-old dog, a little 14-year-old dog. Whoever dumps a dog after 14 years, I have zero compassion for you. Day before yesterday, I talked to my friend Dr. Lisa. They found a German Shepherd with lymphoma in the wilderness in Malibu with its mouth zip-tied shut. Someone dumped a German Shepherd in the wilderness with its mouth zip-tied shut so it would starve to death and not be able to drink or defend itself. I posted about that yesterday on Instagram. If I found out who did that, there is no punishment in the world great enough for a person like that. Would I have rather seen the person dump the dog in the shelter? Yeah. But we don't hold people responsible, right? So we say, well, the person probably didn't want the guilt of putting the dog in the shelter, but you have to get away from that. There is guilt in life. There's great guilt in life. We have to understand that if you're doing the wrong thing, you must face consequences. And owning a dog is a great responsibility. Sometimes more greater than the responsibility of a child, because a child at a certain age can speak for itself, defend itself, go to school, take care of itself somewhat, where a dog, even at full maturity, really can't care for itself. So we need to be responsible. So I'm going to stop my lecture on that, and I'm going to take questions. The only thing I ask of you, please, is to put some question marks before your question so that I know it's a question, because I see a lot of you guys have a bunch of stuff going back and forth here amongst yourselves, and I don't want to interfere in that. So if you have any questions, put them up there. I saw one question come through before, and I will try to get to that. Let's see here. Except any questions, put them up. I don't know. Maybe I don't. There's no questions. Nope. I thought I saw a question. Oh, wait, I do see one here. I'll put this up here. If we're talking about dangerous dogs, why not just remove their teeth? Well, that's exactly right. So, remember one thing, though. If I took a 60, 70-pound Shepherd, Pit, Dobie, or whatever, and I removed the teeth, the dog could still crush a small dog, right? The power of the jaws could still crush a small dog. It could still hurt a small dog. It's not fair. It's like, what if I had a person who, molested children and I just castrated them? I'm not going to even go further than that. I think that should answer your question. All right, so now I'm going to go to the bottom. Okay, Luke, how do we fight e-collar bans and prong collar bans? Well, you vote and you make sure that every single person who is a legislator, which is always going to come through, is going to come through two things. It's going to come through unskilled trainers who believe that theirs is the only way of training dogs. And they preach from a very high platform and a very high pulpit. And they will try to influence legislators, lawmakers, and those people are elected officials. So those people need to know that there are more numbers of people that will vote them out and not support them if they support such nonsense as the people who are noisy about, banning these tools. Remember something, animal abuse is illegal in almost every country and almost every state in the United States. To ban one tool, or two, prong collars and e-collars, to ban them and think animal abuse will stop is absolutely ridiculous. Case in point, the German Shepherd that was found in Malibu with its mouth zip-tied shut, that is the purest, most unalterated form of animal abuse. Starvation, defenselessness. Zip ties are not illegal. Why don't we ban zip ties? People can take a pen and poke a dog's eyes out. Pens are not illegal. Cruelty, the act of taking the pen and stabbing the dog in the eye, is illegal. The act of putting a zip tie around a dog's mouth is illegal. The act of shocking a dog needlessly on an e-collar abusively is illegal. We don't need a law to ban the tool in order to ban the abuse. Simple as that. And thank you for that question, Luke. That was a good question. Okay, you guys are still talking amongst each other. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in too, because you really give me a platform here, and I think you guys embrace what I'm trying to say and who I'm trying to help in this. It's not me, right? I'm going to be 60 years old this year. I've got a few more good years in front of me, I hope, and I have some really amazing years behind me. So for me, I can train a dog without an e-collar. I mean, I can do it better with an e-collar. I can train a dog without a prong collar. I can train a dog, with any methodology. In fact, everything I've done with Shmuley, of course, it's gotten corrections, but there's been no e-collars, no nothing. A lot of treats and toys and a slip lead. That's it. So, let's see. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Punching and kicking a dog is abuse. That's illegal. That's it. Public education needs to happen at social level, making shelters more restrictive will limit shelter adoption. Absolutely. I can't disagree with that. This is why my platform, look, on YouTube and on Facebook, I have hundreds and hundreds of videos to help you train your dog. But my platform really is about helping dogs, and not necessarily how to train them, but how to advocate for them, how to care for them, how to do what's best for them, and helping people to better understand dogs. That's really where my platform has shifted to. I can't keep doing videos on how to teach your dog to sit or how to teach your dogs to heel. I've done that. At this point, it's about, getting more and more to help the dogs. Okay, Rachel, you got a great question. What's the best way to help shelters besides cash? So first of all, shelters can always use donations like bedding and toys and food. Cash is good, but, volunteering at a shelter, walking dogs at a shelter is a great thing to do. At some point, putting some kind of social pressure on shelters to do training for dogs, and I mean training. I mean, a lot of shelters have enrichment programs, where they have dogs playing, where they have, frisbees for the dogs and like lick pads for the dogs. And those are all great enrichment programs. And the difference between enrichment and programs that help save dogs is enrichment is designed to make a dog's life better when they're in the shelter. And it's a very, very, very important thing. But programs that will increase adoptions, like training programs, like media, social media platforms of marketing their dogs, that's what's going to get them out. Getting the dogs enriched while in the shelter is absolutely necessary and should be an absolute priority. But equal with that priority should be getting dogs out of the shelter. Okay, I think my video stopped here. Let me see here. I think it's just my iPad that stopped. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm actually just going to restart my iPad. And I'm going to keep talking to you, but I'm not going to be able to see your questions. Let's see if I can turn my iPad off and back on. Enrichment programs are really the things that we need to focus on to get shelters to understand that we want that dog to have a nice life while it's there. That's really, really important. I get that. And I've been a big proponent of that, where we take dogs for walks, where we take dogs and give them Kongs filled with, peanut butter or, like the lick-it pads are awesome. What they do is sometimes they'll take a Frisbee and they'll smear peanut butter on it and they'll hang it in the front of the crate and the dog can lick it while they're in there. And it makes the dog really, takes the stress off of the dog for living in the shelter. Hang on one second. I'm just going to restart my external display. One sec here. 1 second. System settings. Let me just find it. Give me 1 sec. I got to add my display. Sorry. This happens every once in a while where my display screws up, my iPad screws up. There we go. And I'm back over here now. I got to just find my comments, and then I can start answering your questions again. I used to have to just jump off the whole chat when I did that, and then I figured I shouldn't do that. So those are important components. But training the dogs, getting the dog real life skills, real training skills are imperative. So let's see. I'm going to keep going down. Okay, Jennifer Eason says, is it possible to render a dog unable to reproduce without removing the hormone-producing organs? There are some, I believe you can do like a tubule ligation, which you tie the tubes of the male dog. And I guess you could probably tie the tubes of the female dog so that the eggs don't drop and that the hormone doesn't produce the sperm to get the dog pregnant. And people will do that. And that's a really good option, right? But again, what we need to do is focus on the irresponsibility of the people who own the dogs. And we're not going to, nobody's going to let me say, don't let irresponsible people have dogs, because people can say it's an elitist attitude. And maybe in some degrees I am elitist, because I do think that to own a dog and to have a child, you should be responsible. And if being responsible or asking people to be responsible is an elitist thing, then that's a problem. But anyway, that's a great question, Jennifer. Yes, it is possible. Talk to your veterinarian and go from there. Okay, Ringo the German short-haired pointer. How do you feel about breed bans, and if a dangerous breed pit bull ends up in the shelter, it's automatically euthanized? Okay, so if a dog ends up in the shelter and the dog has hurt, killed, whatever, a dog or person, okay, so yeah, that dog is a liability, right? I'm not saying just because a dog bit, maimed, or killed someone, person or dog, it will do it again, but it certainly has done it and doesn't deserve the opportunity to do it again. That's the important part. But it's not always a breed-specific issue. There are breeds that are more likely to be aggressive to dogs than others. Pit bulls, any bull baiting kind of dog. Now, there are dogs that are more likely to be more aggressive to people. Shepherds, right? It's the case. That's just the way it is. Should we punish all for the infraction of a few? No. And this is exactly what I'm trying to get at, is that people automatically go to this thing and say, well, just neuter all dogs, because some dogs might get other dogs pregnant. Now, if you're a responsible owner and you have an intact dog and your dog's never got any other dog pregnant, why would you change the characteristic of your dog for a crime you've never committed and never intend to commit, and you will not allow to happen? If you have a female and she's in heat, you don't walk her outside off leash. You don't let her in the backyard without a leash. You don't take her to the dog park. You walk her on a leash, and you're careful for those 10 days every 6 weeks, 6 months. You're careful during those times. And then you don't have a problem. I'm only going to answer things that have a question mark in front of it. I'd prefer it to be 3, but here's one with 1. Thank God I caught it. Do you think that one day the no-kill policy will be the same for people? 100 years ago, if you killed somebody, you would be sentenced to death. 300 years ago, you would get shot for stealing. Well, okay, so 300 years ago, in some places, people were stoned for being, when some places they still get stoned for being homosexuals. People get stoned for adultery. I mean, here's my thing. It's basically, in my opinion, an eye for an eye kind of a thing. So I think if you did kill someone, you probably should be killed. That's my opinion. If you murdered someone, sorry, that's a misstatement I made. Not if you killed someone, if you murdered someone. So if accidentally you were driving and somebody ran out and you hit them and, oh my God, it was the worst accident, the worst thing of your life, that's different. That's homicide. Right? That's an accidental death. But if you intentionally murdered someone, you should be killed. And I don't, it's not my judgment. I mean, I certainly am a very big advocate of the death penalty. I do believe that people like that don't deserve a place in society. And I'm going to tell you where that comes from. And those of you who know me well enough know that my father was murdered, and I would have loved to see that person executed. I would have pulled the switch, but that's not the case in Rhode Island. There's no death penalty. So he's got maybe 10 more years to go in his jail term, and then he'll be out to do whatever he wants to do again. Let's see. Okay, Nin. In my country, shelters won't accept dogs easily and will try to make you keep even a street dog if you find one. If you have an old dog that has dementia and is attacking, sheltering them is nearly impossible. Okay, so here's the thing. If you have an old dog, and I had Maya. Maya I just put down a couple of weeks ago. I haven't talked really much about that yet. And Maya had dementia. Maya got dementia. Now, Maya was a very dominant dog, and Maya would nail another dog. She corrected Shmuley very fairly because she was still a very sound mind then. But if you have a dog that needs to be put down, don't put that dog in a shelter. Please don't put that dog in a shelter, because they must kill another dog to make room for that dog. I would have in a million years, never put my dog in a shelter. I put Maya down while I was holding her in my arms, crying on her head because she was suffering. She couldn't walk. I carried her for 8 weeks everywhere, to go potty, to move her, to groom her, to clean her, to help her, to make her more comfortable. I would have never in a million years put her in a shelter. And I would do the same for Goofy and Shmuley, Jimmy and Dwayne, all my dogs. So yeah, if people in your country make it hard to relinquish your dog in a shelter, it's a good thing. And somebody said the other day, all the street dogs in Mexico, people are rescuing and bringing them here. They're street dogs. They don't know how to live here in a house. They can learn, but it's not fair because we're still killing dogs in the shelter who were house dogs who now can't be in a house. Leave the street dogs on the street. Have organizations like I know that are going there and doing it, go and spay and neuter them. Spay and neuter those dogs if you want to limit populations. Not of nice, good dogs that people own, that are responsible owners that aren't going to let them breed. Oh, part 2. The vets will tell you that the dog's health is fine apart from the dementia and refuse euthanasia, even if it's pooping and sleeping on its own way. Some people just have to get rid of their old dog themselves. Well, I mean, in that case, there should be a case for, people allowed to put their dogs down themselves. I mean, that the vet will tell you that the health is fine. Dementia is a tough thing to deal with. My mother has dementia, and I'm not saying I'd put my mother down, but for a dog, there's other things that usually follow up with that, with the dementia, like, inability to move, sight, and all these other things. So yeah, that's a sad state for your country. I don't know where you're from, Nin. I'm sorry, though. Clint says, if you have a reactive German Shepherd that's 5 years old, what is the best course of action? Thanks to your courses, she has great obedience. Well, training. I mean, it doesn't matter if the dog is 2 years old or 8 years old or 12 years old or 5 years old. At 5 years old, it's a lot harder to change the personality of the dog or to get the dog to understand what you really want. But structured training, management, and really good management at that is going to help you to really keep that dog in check and safe. But you've got to really make sure the dog understands there are consequences for her actions, her actions. There are rewards for listening and doing the right thing. So training. Melissa says, is it bad to support a force-free dog trainer that's associated with the shelter? It's not bad to support any trainer. I am not against force-free trainers. I'm against the force-free ideology of eliminating everything else. If someone is a force-free trainer, they might be a great trainer, and I support them. But when they are attacking me, when the ideology becomes about it's only my way. In other words, if I were to attack a force-free trainer who's helping in the shelter, I would be just as bad as them, right? I have certain dogs that I don't want to work with that I might send off to someone else. And now I don't really train dogs much anymore besides for the site. But yeah, no, support them 100% because you want their support back. We need to bridge that gap and we need to work together. It's a crime that we're ostracizing trainers just because they're force-free or because they're, first of all, it's just a dog trainer. I don't know why we need those labels. I really hate labels. Okay, Pat Brady, what is the way that we can really help shelters is to take Robert's shelter program training, become a trainer. And yeah, the shelter dog training course, and it's on my site on robertcabral.com. You can go there, you can sign up for the course. It's the only course that I know of, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, the only course I know of that's actually filmed, and it's for any dog trainer, but it's filmed in a shelter and it's filmed with shelter dogs. The only one. A lot of training courses that you see out there, and they're very good ones, by the way, they use trained dogs. They use pet dogs, and they know the dog. Oh, here's how I teach your dog sit, and the dog already knows sit. Or maybe they get a puppy and they're luring and doing whatever. There's no course on the planet that uses real shelter dogs. So, Nin, you asked a question about the people in your country where they don't let you euthanize a dog. I don't know. But that's a very, very, very sad state that, when you have a dog that is suffering from something like dementia, which is very hard on a dog and it endangers other dogs, that the people in your country won't let you put them down. I think it's horrible. I don't know what I would do. I might euthanize a dog myself. I might figure out a way to overdose the dog. I'm not saying that that's what you should do, but I'm saying if I saw an animal suffering, I'll give you a great example. If a forest ranger comes upon a deer that's been hit by a car and it's laying there and it can't move and it's suffering, they will dispatch that deer. They will put a bullet in that animal's head to stop the suffering. Anyone who doesn't allow that it's terrible. At what point do you step in? Yeah, like I said, if you don't have a question mark in front of your question, then I am not going to, okay, here we go. Wilhelm Sowers, what's your thoughts on PETA killing puppies and kittens? I'm not going to mention any organizations' names, but there are organizations out there that take in tens of millions of dollars, and they have a shelter, and they kill an extremely high percentage of dogs and cats because they feel that it's better for the animal to be dead than to be a pet. But I'm not mentioning any of the organizations by name. But I think it's disgusting, and I would never, ever, ever support an organization like that. All right, I'm still looking for questions. I only got, 1 minute left here. Quay Twice Rider 3. Lots of people think Muzzles is a replacement for training. Thoughts? No, it's not. I don't use Muzzles. I've never used Muzzles. I own several Muzzles. I show people how to use them. I don't like Muzzles for if the dog is aggressive and you're walking on the street and you have to put a muzzle on. In the meantime, okay, it's fine. But a lot of times a dog, if you look at the muzzle, where it's used really properly in something like police work, they'll put the muzzle on the dog and send the dog on the bad guy to increase the dog's frustration so that when the muzzle is off, it will bite. Overlay that into what you're talking about here. When a dog has dog aggression, you're going to put a muzzle on the dog. And if the dog gets into anything with the dog and that frustration builds, the next time when that muzzle is off, you got a problem. There's a good friend of mine who many people I was talking about before, you guys. Jennifer is a volunteer, an amazing volunteer at the West LA shelter, and she's doing God's work. And we love Jennifer. We love all you guys at the West LA shelter, and I will get back down there. I've just been really busy with, like I said, I put Maya down. Goofy is really having a hard time these last few weeks. And I got my hands full with Shmuley, and I got my hands full with my mom, who also has dementia, and she's in an assisted living, so I go see her. So I have not had a lot of time to do my passion work at the shelter, and I will be back, Jennifer. I thank you for what you're doing, but we will be back. Jan and I both miss it, and we will be back, and thank you for mentioning that there, because the work I do at shelters is something that I love more than any training I've done. I mean, training Shmuley is a lot of fun. I got to admit that, and it's really rewarding, but we love going to the shelter, and I love doing the videos. Becca, the German Shepherd, I actually got to write myself a note. Becca was adopted. I'm writing Becca adopted because that was really good news. All the dogs we did, except I think there's one pit bull that has not been adopted yet. Jennifer, you can maybe put the guy's name down. I forget what his name, Boldo, I think it was, wasn't it? Boldo has not been yet adopted. So, this live will live on YouTube for eternity, so I hope you guys will watch it. I hope you guys will learn from what I talked about early on in the live, where I talked about the dangers of no-kill that it poses on dogs, society, and employees in the shelters. And the employees and the volunteers in animal shelters are the lifeblood of these dogs. They are the only thing saving these dogs. So we need to protect these people. We need to embrace these people and support these people in the work they're doing. People like Jennifer who do amazing work, who have a passion and a drive, and also the follow through to do something about it. I have a lot of passion, but I don't have the time, so that I can't go to the shelter as much as I would like to. So anyway, I hope you guys will watch this. Thank you for your prayers, Catherine. Very much appreciated. Thank you all for your love and support. Lastly, if you want to check out my online training, robertcabral.com, there's the monthly training, and there's also the Shelter Dog Training course, which allows you to learn how to be a dog trainer. And there's more coming, a lot more videos coming, more courses coming. Stay tuned for that. God bless every one of you. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you real soon. Thank you.